All right, Raider Nation. Today we're going to be talking about defensive tackles in the 2025 NFL Draft because there are some beasts. This defensive tackle class is absolutely loaded with some high quality talent, guys who are probably going to go on to be all pro type of Pro Bowl type dudes. And so let's get into a few of the top defensive tackles that will be available this year in the draft for the Raiders to take a very hard look at and possibly even draft one of them at pick number 6, as many have suggested. But before we get into that one, I just want to say thank you to you, the subscribers and the viewers out there in the Raider Nation. Whether you are a diehard Raiders fan or a casual fan, or maybe not even a fan of the Raiders at all, but you just like getting updates on football, you have been a huge portion of the growth of this channel. And so I just wanted to give my gratitude to you guys. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, doesn't cost you anything, and hit the like button on this video to tell the algorithm that you actually like what the Raider D is selling. I don't know. I stole that from The Rock. I don't know. What is this thing? I have no idea. Anyway, let's get into today's video. Let's talk about the obvious, first round draft pick, guy who is a top 5, top 10 defensive tackle. And that's Mason Graham, the standout out there in Michigan. He's a junior. He won a national championship the year prior. Last year had another stellar year, and just shows the fact that Mason Graham is probably the best defensive tackle in this class. Now, it's not like he's the best defensive tackle by far, because again, like I said, in this draft class, the defensive tackles are pretty stout and stacked. But one thing about Mason Graham is this dude is known for being absolutely dominant on the defensive line. Offensive guards and centers and tackles, they just have no answer for this guy. He is so good at stopping the run. He is so good at putting pressures on the quarterback and chasing quarterbacks down and sacking them. His motor is relentless, and the dude's drive to be excellent and to be a winner is unquestioned. So Mason Graham, if he falls to the Raiders at pick number 6, and perhaps there's no quarterbacks left on the board, perhaps Abdul Carter is not on the board, perhaps Ashton Jeanty is not on the board. Let's say Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Abdul Carter, and Ashton Jeanty are all picked in the first 4, and Tet McMillan is picked number 5. That leaves the Raiders with a hard decision. Well, it's not really hard at all, because you just simply go with the best tackle in this draft class, and you draft Mason Graham. It's a no-brainer. You're going to have an instant upgrade. And listen, I know we signed Adam Butler to an extension. I know we have Christian Wilkins. I know we have Tyree Wilson going in to the interior line and the exterior line. But when you have a guy who's going to probably be an all-pro defensive tackle in the NFL, you don't pass on him. You go best player available. And Mason Graham at that pick would certainly be best player available. Now let's move on to the next guy on my list, and that is Walter Nolan, who is an absolute beast out of Ole Miss. One thing about Walter Nolan is he's a little bit different than Mason Graham. This dude is super quick, very twitchy, very versatile. And that's why he is the runner-up to the number 1 spot, right? So he's got the ability to move in and out and all over that line because he's so versatile. You can mix and match him up, which is going to confuse offenses and offensive linemen. The dude is very twitchy. He's very fast. He's got great hands. And I'm really excited about Walter Nolan. I think this dude's probably going to go anywhere from pick 15 to pick 20. And if the Raiders really wanted to do something crazy, you could trade back and pick up a lot of draft capital. You could trade back to pick number 15 and possibly still have Nolan on the table and maybe get yourself another first round draft pick next year. Maybe you get a second round draft pick this year and a first round next year. That would just be awesome. I would love to see the Raiders make some moves where we can stack up some draft picks, but if Mason Graham's there, you're going to go with him. If you're at pick number 6 and Graham's off the table and you really want to go defensive tackle, I think it's way too early to pick Walter Nolan at pick number 6, but I think the Raiders could definitely stack up some draft picks, trade back, and get an absolute stud, a Pro Bowl defensive tackle that you're going to be able to work into that lineup. So Walter Nolan, a close second on my list of defensive tackles for this draft. Now let's move on to the next guy, and that's Derek Harmon out of Oregon. Derek Harmon is a powerful run defender. He is a run stuffer. Now he can also get some sacks, and crazy enough, I didn't mention this about Walter Nolan. Walter Nolan had 6.5 sacks last year, 48 tackles. Mason Graham only had 3.5 and 46 tackles. Derek Harmon out of Oregon, another guy who's projected to go in the first round, anywhere from pick 15 to pick 25, actually had 5 sacks and 45 tackles. So he's right up there with the top 3 guys, and he's an absolute powerhouse. I would love to see Walter Nolan come to the Raiders. Again, this is a situation where the Raiders could do a couple of different things. You could trade back and stack up some draft capital. And now, if you trade back to pick 15, you have the ability to possibly land Walter Nolan or Derek Harmon. These guys are pretty much the same defensive tackle. They're going to be Pro Bowlers in the NFL, and I think it would just be smart for the Raiders to do something like that if, and I say if, they don't get Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, Tet McMillan, Ashton Jeanty, or Abdul Carter. If all those guys are off the board and Mason Graham somehow is off the board, then yeah, I think that you could definitely do that. Or if you were to get, say, Ashton Jeanty at pick number 6, you could trade back into the first round and grab a guy like Derek Harmon, probably somewhere between pick 15 to 25, if he's still available. Another guy that I also want to talk about is Alfred Collins. Alfred Collins played for Texas, 55 tackles, only 1 sack, but he is a massive human being. This dude is so big, he just dwarfs everybody else. And that's why he's really moved up the rankings, is because he is just such a big human being and he's super athletic. Now, he's a little bit of a project. He is projected to be anywhere from a late first round to a early to mid second round draft pick. And so this is a dude that you could draft probably in the second round. So if the Raiders really want to add some depth on that defensive line, you could certainly do that by drafting Ashton Jeanty, Abdul Carter, Tet McMillan at pick number 6. And then probably by your next pick, I think we have pick 37, you can then go ahead and draft this guy who is absolute beast, and he's just going to be dominant in the NFL because he is so big. Now again, he only had 55 tackles and only 1 sack, but what he is really good at is being a disruptive, huge body on that defensive line, and he's going to just swallow up the run game like it's just, ice cream or something. Darius Alexander out of Toledo, a small school. This guy is pick number 5 for me. He's a little bit of an unknown due to the fact that he went to Toledo, but when you watch his game tape, the dude has such a high upside. He's very explosive and very disruptive. Had 40 tackles and 3.5 sacks on the year last year. So he is the last one to wrap up all the defensive tackles in the 2025 NFL Draft. Guys, I just want to say thank you to Vtoman, the sponsor of this channel. If you've made it all the way to the end of this channel, you got to go and check out the end of this channel. The end of this video, you got to go and check out my guys over at Vtoman. They are absolutely killing the game when it comes to solar generators. I got the Jump 1800 solar generator, plus 3 of their 400-watt flexible, portable, super durable solar panels that just plug and play. It's super easy. It's lightweight. You're going to love it. Go and check them out. Link is in the description and in the shopping cart. And I'll see you guys in the next Raiders video.